Welcome back to Boring Reviews.
Boring land.
Oh, just kidding.
Blasphemer!
All
Hello,
right.
Boring Review Nation!
Kind of pointless.
We know all things.
All right. Welcome back to Boring Reviews. Nick here.
Gabe.
I was expecting a name there, a last name. And we are here checking out a space video, Indian space video, the ISRO, which stands for the Indian Space Research Organization, which is, as far as I know, is their kind of equivalent to NASA.
Right.
And this is an organization that started in 1962.
Right.
And, all about setting up a space commission, Department of Space, all that kind of stuff. So we are looking at a video. This is a request from Varun, and he says that it's really impressive about the ISRO, what they've been able to do, considering the lack of funding, especially compared to NASA here in the United States and whatnot. And, just, humble brag, NASA, moon, all this kind of stuff. They know what they're doing. But they've been around for a while. And the question's asking, is this the second best space program in the world? Gabe, what do you know about space programs, my friend?
Well, I know that the only reason that NASA became NASA was because they got the funding simply because of the space race with the Russians, because it was like whoever made it to the moon first, whoever's program was better was gonna that was gonna be world supremacy, right? I remember even in the late 80s, was it Reagan talking about the Star Wars program with the space lasers and all that stuff? That didn't happen, obviously. Gonna shoot down other people's nukes. What are you talking about? But that's where they got the funding, because you're afraid of the other guy getting there before you. And this was right in the middle of the Cold War, right? That heightened Cold War. And, I've actually done so much research on this. I've written papers on it in school. It's actually interesting to see the corners they cut, the amount of pressure that was on them, the danger they took on both sides. Russia is a lot like I gotta be politically correct here. In that their media is a state media. If that makes sense. So we really don't know how many missions fail before their successful one. We don't know how many cosmonauts they lost before the ones they admitted to losing. You know what I mean? That's just being real. And we hear know firsthand how many we lost or whatever. Of course, the tragedies that happen. And it's so interesting to think that they were able to accomplish this back in the 60s, and still today, Nick, we haven't our technology has come so much further, but you would have thought that we would have already been to Mars, and we haven't really been, not a manned mission to Mars. As a matter of fact, earlier this year, we had a mission to Mars that was broadcasted live or whatnot when we were dropping the brand new rover. And I think you might have done it with your class. I know I did it with my class, where they showed it online through Discovery Education, I think it was. And, my students found it so fascinating. And it was just interesting to see that we're still dropping rovers there and trying to collect samples. And, we still haven't been able to put people on Mars when we put people on the moon. What was that? 80 years ago now, or what was it? What was that?
69.
So what? 50 plus years, bro. 60 years almost.
Ago.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, dude? So it's so interesting. And those are the only two places, though, I ever heard of that had massive space programs. Of course, the United States and Russia. And of course, it's because that's what our media all talks about. For all I know, China, India, could have had much superior space programs, but since we weren't in a space race with them, because they weren't our adversaries, our media just doesn't pay attention.
No, and you're a little wrong there, okay? There's been two guys that have gotten to Mars, okay? One, John Carter, okay? I think you forgot about him. And then two, Mark Watney, from The Martian. No, I was kidding. Great movies, by the way. Even John Carter, I enjoy that one. But yeah, you're right. No men have made it to Mars as far as we know. Maybe a few Martians walking around. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm fascinated by space as well. I'm fascinated by, for the most part, our country's history of trying to get there. There's been a lot of snafus. There's been a lot of this or that. It's interesting once they made it safely on the moon and they went there once or twice afterwards, how the country here in America just like was no longer interested, right? There wasn't a lot of buzz on it until the accident happened with Apollo 13 and all that kind of stuff. And then, you had Sally Ride and all that kind of stuff. But then you also had this, I was watching this documentary on Netflix, not to get too far off track, about how they were trying to get things more exciting, like in the 80s, the 90s, whatever it was. And so Reagan announced that they were going to send a regular person up in space, a teacher. And they had this whole sweepstakes for it. This girl, she got it and tragically died in space. I think it was on a launch. The rocket blew up and
was the Challenger disaster, right?
I think that
Challenger
one.
disaster. Yeah.
It's a really good documentary, but it's super sad. But I mean, the space program has come a long ways, is what I'm trying to say. And this is not trying to be a video that says it's better than NASA, this or that. This is just talking about, is it the second best space program? So I'm excited to learn about this. We watched that one video, or I watched that one, but I'm not sure if you watched it with SRK, where he comes. Oh, no, you haven't seen it. That was SWATUS. Anyways, he comes here to learn a little bit and goes back in a different story. But way off track. We're going to go and check this out. Go ahead and put it in the comment section, 6:15 or whatever. We finally got to the reaction. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And we're excited to check this out, learn something.
All righty, Nick. And 3, 2, 1.
This video is supported by Brilliant. Hey, welcome back, I'm Lai. On this channel, I've talked a lot about technology and business space companies. I've talked about national agencies like NASA, ESA, and Roscosmos. I've also talked about private companies like SpaceX and Rocket Lab. One entity I've refrained to talk about is ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization, simply because it's really hard to pigeonhole ISRO. Yes, it is a traditional national agency, much like NASA of the United States, but it's also at the same time extremely cost-conscious and result-oriented like a startup. Its launch price is almost as competitive as SpaceX. So let's talk about it today. Where does ISRO really fit in, and what makes it so special? First of all, it is not fair to compare ISRO with other space agencies because ISRO has never possessed the ambitions or the fundings like the other space agencies. NASA's budget each year is $18 billion, $7 billion for European Space Agency, $3 billion for the Chinese and the Russians. ISRO's budget each year is only $1.7 billion. Think about it. With $285 billion cash reserve, Apple could have funded ISRO with cash for 167 years.
Can a brother get on
That is
Lade?
how little ISRO spends every year, and that is why comparing ISRO with NASA wouldn't be fair. However, this is not to say that ISRO has not achieved extraordinary results. It has. Two of the most successful launches of ISRO is the PSLV C-37 in 2017 and the Mangoyan in 2013. PSLV C-37 until this day holds the record for launching the most satellites in a single rocket, and Mangoyan successfully helped ISRO to become the 4th country to orbit Mars, even before the Chinese. But none of the aforementioned achievements comes close to what ISRO has spent for both missions.
What?
Around $70 million each.
Jeez.
This, I think, reflects the core philosophy of ISRO,
70 million?
which is to be ambitious, but at the same time
Mike Trout could pay for that.
cost-effective. In the 1960s,
Good,
the Soviet Union and the United States competed fiercely in the space industry, which eventually accelerated the collapse of the Soviet Union, and now the Chinese are catching up with the Americans. Not to compete with NASA this time, but the Chinese are not going to be anyone else's lackey either. Therefore, while other space agencies compete to make the most powerful rockets in the world, ISRO never seemed to care about that. Just look at the evolution of its rocket launchers. They're all humbly named satellite launch vehicles. Different variations indicated by the first letter represent different orbit. PSLV for polar synchronous orbit and GSLV for geosynchronous orbit. This is the first clue of how pragmatic ISRO is. The second clue is in its vehicle design. If you take a closer look at ISRO's rocket evolution, it looks almost like SpaceX. The only difference is that ISRO has a more stable financial support from the Indian government, and SpaceX had none. But in terms of the approach to design launch vehicles, both organizations are very similar. SLV and ASLV was initiated in the 1980s, and ASLV's capability is similar to that of Falcon 1. The three versions of PSLVs have similar capabilities comparing to early versions of Falcon 9, and the GSLV has capabilities somewhat catching on to Falcon 9 Block 5. None of them could be classified as a super heavy lift launch vehicle like Falcon Heavy and Saturn V, but they're all super reliable and, most importantly, very cost effective. What's more impressive about the evolution of ISRO's launch vehicles is their adaptability. Take PSLV as an example. It has three versions: PSLV-CA, which stands for Core Alone, Standard PSLV, and PSLV XL. Well, all of them focus on polar synchronous orbit, which is around 600 kilometers altitude. Customers can choose which variations of vehicles to use based on the size of the satellite. This is the beauty of a cost-effective launcher. Furthermore, because of its focus on cost effectiveness, ISRO also has to come up with brilliant engineering solutions to the problems it faces. One famous example is its experimental mission to Mars. On top of being the only successful Mars mission on the first try, ISRO had to perform 6 orbit-raising maneuvers over 3 weeks before heading to Mars. Because the vehicle does not have enough power like the Falcon Heavy to send satellites directly to Mars, it slowly raises the satellite's orbit before injecting it successfully to a heliocentric orbit to Mars. The engineering and the problem-solving behind it is truly amazing. This, I think, captures the essence of ISRO's success. As the founding father of ISRO, Vikram, used to say, there are some who question the relevance of space activities in the developing nation. To us, there's no ambiguity of purpose. We do not have the fantasy of competing with the economically advanced nations in the exploration of the moon or the planets or manned space flight. But we're convinced that if we're to play a meaningful role nationally and in the community of nations, we must be second to none in the applications of advanced technologies to the real problems of man and society. I think this is the key to understand what ISRO stands for and how it differs from other space agencies and companies. This is also why I said at the beginning, it is really hard to pigeonhole ISRO. It didn't have the fundings that NASA had, it didn't have the startup mindset and institution that SpaceX had, but none of this stopped ISRO from doing something extraordinary. This just comes to show how important passion and dedication is for any organization. You know, talking about ISRO makes me really happy because it's clearly made out of people who are passionate, dedicated, and above all, an institution that encourages it. Looking forward into the future, I think ISRO will continue to do great things. It's setting out to perform its first manned mission in 2022. I'd say good luck to ISRO. Before I published this video, one of my viewers sent me this picture. Can you believe it? In the early days, engineers of ISRO had to send rocket parts with their bicycles to assemble them for testing. This is the situation they had to deal with every single day. They don't have a lot of resources. What they do have is passion and dedication. They only achieved what they did through hard work and a lot of practice. A good way to practice actively, though, is through brilliant.org. Even though rocketry is complex, all it takes is for you to start small in order to achieve great things. ISRO knows at the very beginning that if it were to build huge rockets like Saturn V, it won't work. It has to start with something manageable like the satellite launch vehicles in order to slowly become a giant it is now. In a similar way, Brilliant helps you start small with interesting problems and examples so that you can master concepts by solving fun, challenging problems yourselves. On top of that, it also gives you a good framework to enhance your understanding of rocketry and help you link relevant physics topics together. If you love this video, I recommend you to start with the courses on classical mechanics and astronomy. To start small and achieve great things, go to brilliant.org/curiouselephant and sign up for free. The first 200 people click on the link will also get 20% off the annual premium subscription. Alright, that's about it. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to follow me at Late Creatives on Twitter and Instagram. As always, I'm Lai.
Wow, that's super interesting, bro.
Curious elephant. Yeah, I mean that's I mean, again, he did a great job in that video. As a content creator, you notice the hard work and the dedication and all these different editing things he's doing to tell us everything he's telling us in 8 minutes. I mean, we can never do that, for crying out loud. But as far as the content for what he's talking about, to me, the most impressive thing is that quote he put there, where it's not about solving the problems with money, it's solving the problems with ingenuity, with your mind, to be able to figure out, we're not going to be able to afford this or that. We cannot compete with this or that. We're not going to. So how can we solve this problem? How can we get there? Talking about just that mission to Mars and how it had to go through the different orbits before it can get to Mars instead of just taking a straight shot. That's the thing that's the most impressive to me is, anyone could just throw a whole bunch of money at something to make it easier for them. But you don't always have to do that if you solve the problems, figure it out.
No, definitely. And I tell you what, then that's just not in engineering. That's in all walks of life. You know what I mean? I always gravitate to sports because I love sports, but it reminds me of Moneyball, right? Where Brad Pitt's like, we're trying to solve a problem. He's like, what's the problem? We've got to replace Damon. We've got to problem. No. What's the problem? We've got rich teams, we've got poor teams, we got 50 feet of crap, and then we got us. Okay, we're the bottom feeders. We're the runt of the litter. We're the last to the he said we're the last to the table. He said if we try to play like the Yankees here, we will lose to the Yankees out there. We do not have the resources. We don't have the money to compete with them. But what we can do is, recreate these players in a different way. And again, the A's are one of the most successful franchises in professional baseball. Year after year, they make it to the playoffs. They put out teams that consistently go to the playoffs with literally a fraction of what the Yankees and Red Sox and now even your Padres pay. It's insane how they do it. The formula is amazing. But that's just life, right? Sometimes when life gives you lemon, you got to make lemonades, and you got to be able to, like you said, tap into that human ingenuity. I always tell my students, because I don't know what, maybe they've been watching too much TV. Did you see this new cartoon that came out on Netflix? Meet the Robinsons. It's not Meet the Robinsons, about the family that went on a road trip and the robots try to take over, like the iPhone or whatever.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So my students were like, oh, the robots are going to take over. The computers are going to take over. Guys, no computer could ever be and I tell my students all the time, could be as smart as we can, okay? Because we invented them. They do not have the ability to create something that they weren't programmed to do. They do not have the ability, no matter how fast a computer is, no matter how take the biggest supercomputer there is, it cannot outthink a human because it does not have the ability to have original thought, to create original thought from nothing. And think a man built that computer, right? So again, we have the ability to do that. And I always tell my students this all the time. Don't underestimate your own ingenuity, your own potential. Don't sell yourself short. And usually people achieve their greatest when their backs are to the wall. You know what I'm saying? When they're pushed to do so. Because if not, it's like you said, it's easy to take the high road and throw money at stuff. But what about when you can't do it? In that Apollo movie you were talking about, they had all these issues and they're like, look, we got to figure out how to make this square filter fit into that round hole using nothing but this. That was a way that they had no way to throw money at it, awesome. But they had to fix a problem and they fixed it. And we have the ability to do so.
And it's funny because it's like, we got it. So they're bringing the prototype to the room and it's falling apart on the way there. And they're just like, oh my gosh. No, that's Moneyball, Apollo 13. Those are great examples there. One thing I was thinking about watching this video, it said that one of their rockets, I forget the name of it, went up and sent 104 satellites. First of all, I don't know too much about the satellite situation. I know what they are. I know what they do. I know why companies would want a satellite up there. But is there like a limit to how many satellites can be orbiting around the Earth, for crying out loud? I know the Earth's a big place, but 104 satellites going, the other ones are going to bump into stuff and whatever, cell phone companies or whatever. And B, like, I wonder how much it costs to get a satellite put up into space. You're hiring this ISRO to do that. That part was just fascinating to me because I don't really know too much about the satellite business.
Right. Well, I've seen this. I forgot what documentary it is, but they're like what pictures of space really look like, and you can see like the proliferation of satellites out there, bro. Like there's a lot, bro.
Rush
And
hour, man.
space
Traffic
station,
jam.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like it's crazy, bro. It's absolutely crazy. And there's actually like satellites that are decommissioned or whatnot, and then they gotta try to bring them down, and sometimes they're not working, so now you got to go and now have a mission to go up and get them. And it's insane, man. I think the craziest thing to me is that if I'm not mistaken, this is a government funded, although underfunded, organization. What's crazier to me is private people now, like Elon Musk. You know what I'm saying? Having his own rockets sent out into space, and bro, he sent a Tesla up there. Like that to me, I think it almost gets to the dangerous. Aspect of it, because you're now putting capabilities in the hand of not a country that's going to be responsible with it, not a nation that's going to be responsible with it, but of a man. And people have said Elon Musk is probably the most dangerous person in the world. Forget about America, in the world. Did you see what happened to Dogecoin? I did, because he crushed me. He opened his mouth one time on Saturday Night Live. One time. And my Dogecoin just tanked. All right. Thank you, Elon Musk. Thank you. But you know what I mean? Like, should a private citizen even have the ability to do that, Nick?
It's the machine that we created as a society, elevating the individual because of money, because of fame, elevating them and letting them basically have free reign to do whatever they want. And unfortunately, for most of these celebrities, I'm not talking about Elon Musk, they get themselves in trouble and get arrested for some reason, but it's the society we have where we let them become gods, so to speak, because of the kind of paper they can earn. I mean, yeah, you're right. He started his own company, SpaceX, for crying out loud, 19 years ago, and they're sending out rockets. He's dead serious about taking people to the moon, and taking people to Mars and whatnot. I mean, he's not messing around. This guy's insane. I'm driving back from California, state line, Nevada. We stop at a gas station or whatever, and it's the first time I've ever seen it. I mean, my eyes are always closed. And right there, you have all the Tesla electrical, not gas, but electrical fill-up stations. It's just like it's out of control. But to get back on track on this, I mean, this is the kind of thing about ingenuity, engineers using the brain and trying to figure out this or that. And when you're talking about space, I mean, it truly is unknown. So much of it has never even been explored as far as we know. And so it's one of those things, astronomy, that's always interested me. I'm super excited that we were able to react to this video. The Curious Elephant, that Lee guy, he did a great job giving the narration and explaining stuff to us, so we appreciate that. Guys and girls, don't forget to check out Curious Elephant. Like and subscribe if you like that video. Check out some other stuff. Like and subscribe to this video. And with all that being said, until next time.
We know all things.